Jim Joyce, happy Wednesday, man.
Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Big day today. Big day.
Every Wednesday is a big day because I get to see you, and I didn't, but anyway, but also congratulations to Emmy and all of the Italians. I didn't watch the game myself, but I woke up, to some of that news. So
to the good news. Yeah. No, big news. It looks like it's gonna be England, Italy. So it's a real Brexit Euro match. I'm drinking a Nutella Italian soccer team drink.
Interesting.
In celebration.
I may actually have. So right now I am doing this, and no, we're not getting paid by them. But I may switch to this because the happy days. I'm actually picking up my wonderful girls coming in from Spain tonight. So,
fantastic!
So that's exciting. I also have a surprise for you.
What's this?
Surprise, man.
Tell me.
You know how we're meticulously unproduced and
100%.
we just do this for ourselves and our own mental health.
100%.
So we now, thanks to the Health Podcast Network and Dan Kendall, we actually have a sponsor that I need to read out today. And with all those millions we're going to make on this.
So we're in business.
We are in business finally after a year and a half or so. So I'm going to read this out real quick. It's actually for a great cause, which is what part of it was I said yes to. So this is actually a sponsor. The sponsor is Health Resources and Services Administration. It's a U.S. government organization. And part of that is, and I'm going to just read it out. So if you would like to help communities recover from opioid epidemic, and if you said yes, which I think most of us probably would, and so that's the key part, you're actually a behavioral health professional or paraprofessional, then Jim and I have news for you. You can actually receive up to $250,000 in student loan repayment in exchange for a service in community disproportionately affected by this opioid crisis. And I know it's called an epidemic. I don't think it's been upgraded to a pandemic, and this is off the script here, but I think it's absolutely a great cause here. So to learn more and apply, which needs to happen by July 22nd, join STAR LRP, that stands for Substance Use Disorder Treatment and Recovery Loan Repayment Program. And you can go, and we'll add this to the show link. You can visit bhw.hrsa.gov to learn more. That's BHW, as in Behavioral Health Workforce, .hrsa.gov. Apply by July 22nd, and this is a great cause, and the world needs you.
Love it. So 250 grand. I love it. So 250 grand. If you're a behavioral coach or academic, you can get 250 grand towards your fees or towards your recovery of your loans, or
you will have to go to their website to find out more. So it's you need to be a behavioral health professional or a paraprofessional as it's defined. So I'm sure there are other things that are on the website that will disqualify you or qualify you for it, but for those digital health peeps that are watching this, please direct. This is much needed in US and the world. And with that, completely switching gears and hopping over to Germany, we have actually a good
open the window.
I'm back in the good old garage, and it's like 30 plus degrees. Oh, nice. I forgot to ask where you're at, actually.
Yeah, in Italy, here in my mother-in-law's place, but it's a bit roasting. Remember, so if I start to sweat, it's not because I'm nervous.
No worries. That's why I have the fan here. So I don't think you will get nervous in front of this guy, Eckhardt Weber. So let me let him in.
I know Eckhardt. I've definitely met him before. Yeah, Heart Labs, right? Is that?
Heartbeat Labs. There we go. We're already talking about you, Eckhardt. Welcome.
Hey,
hello. Hi, how are you? I'm good. Thanks.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. And Harvey Labs was right. Yes. That was the one before Heal Capital.
Okay.
And then we met back then. I remember that.
Okay, good.
We met in Berlin, right? Did we? We have a mutual friend with the Elkstone guys, one of my investors.
Yes.
Right. So good to see you again. Happy Wednesday.
Cool. Yeah, same here. Happy Wednesday.
So Eckhardt and I, obviously living in Berlin, we sort of crossed each other's in paths, in different events, but I don't think I ever spoke until I was actually exiting Bayer. So we met a couple of years back now, a year and a half-ish, almost 2 years ago. Kept in touch. Love what they've been doing with Heal Capital and KOLing out there. But we'll get into some of that. But maybe just tell us and millions of our viewers. And by the way, we took a little bit longer to let you in. We had our first sponsorship that I had to read out. You'll look at it and listen to it later. So this meticulously unproduced is paying off.
Hope it pays well.
Big money.
We'll find out.
Big money.
It's not a VC investment, Eckhardt, into this. Let's put it that way. But tell us a little bit how your journey to now Heal Capital and your background, and I don't want to spoil it for our viewers by giving you a 30-second my pitch of you. So.
No, happy. So, but I hope I try to also be quick on it. No, and thanks for having me. I think really cool show, by the way. I really love talking to you in general. Anyway, so looking forward to tonight, and cheers to the beer already. So yeah, just briefly on myself. So actually, just today was asked by a founder as well, like tell us the story, right? So why are you in venture and in healthcare?
Can you help us, really?
Yes, it's like who would do that? And so just actually, I was like, yeah, my family is all doctors there and here and pharmacists, and I was actually counting, father, uncle, aunt, grandpa. But what did I do? I was like, no, I study law. So yeah, big bummer. Immediately not a conversation starter. But anyway, I learned pretty fast that I also don't like practicing law, and moved to Berlin. I was back in Munich, but came to Berlin because Berlin, I guess, is at least in Germany, still number one for software companies. And I joined the ecosystem here. Actually started out in fintech and insurtech. Helped build up a couple of companies there, had tremendous fun, learned so much. And I think then at some point realized that passion is actually still in something related to healthcare. And I felt like maybe it's the right time. That was 2017. And then we started Heartbeat Labs, and it has been a fun ride since. And then we had the chance to basically raise a venture capital fund. So Heartbeat Labs was more a company building type of entity, starting a couple of companies in telemedicine, but also investing some early smaller tickets. Anyway, then we had the chance to raise Heal Capital, and I decided let's move to the investor side only, and it's amazing fun. And I think it all comes back to, and I guess the same for you, I guess curiosity in learning about new things. It's like, I think what brings us to those places, either as an entrepreneur or as an investor in software and technology. And yeah, I love being here.
So you can probably save some money with the law degree to some of the startups. Right. You can finally apply. I mean,
Right. Is it like a 2-for-1 deal? If the entrepreneurs go for you, they get like a.
That's how we do it, right? But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's actually those costs. I was recently asked also about that again. Like, so okay, that's a cost position for legal fees. In the end, it's still standard, right? I guess like law and VC, by the way, still has to be disrupted by technology as well. So let's see how that turns out. Actually, funny joke I recently heard is about like a VC asking a doctor, like, when will an AI replace you? And doctor replies, yeah, I think before it replaces me, it replaces you, right? Because I think VC is also like a data and pattern recognition game. So anyway, no, law should be disrupted. VC, let's talk about that soon.
Awesome.
Love it. That's going to be on the shot of lawyer health.
Legal health.
I don't know. That's our next vertical. I don't know, but
we're just going to call that suits.
Suits.
Yeah, fun show, by the way. Fun show. Right?
So what, as you guys were getting cranking on Heal Capital, right? What was there an initial thesis that as it was getting set up, or did you guys sort of like morph it as you were going along? Maybe tell us a little bit of the journey of getting that set up in Germany and the focus there.
Yeah, sure. So I guess on a high level, the thesis was there early on, and it's still there. And I'd say the thesis is I think the biggest opportunity in healthcare innovation lies in where software and technology meet. Software and healthcare meet, or healthcare and technology meet. We felt that, I mean, most innovation in healthcare used to be more on the, say, biotech, biopharma side of things, or on the medtechy, often hardware-driven side of things. But on the software side, I think there's still a lot of things that haven't happened in healthcare yet. And if we look at the, let's say, funding environment, we see a lot of life science or medtech focused funds and a lot of tech funds. And like the one doesn't really like maybe healthcare regulatory and evidence-based approaches. And the other one maybe doesn't like software as much as it prefers, let's say, biotech. I mean, big opportunity, maybe not too many funds already really targeting the opportunity. For us was clear, like we have to target that. And then we were lucky enough to have quite some interesting conversations with our LP base, which is only insurance companies. All have also a German private health insurance business, but most of them are actually international players as well. And yeah, they said actually, yeah, we also see that opportunity and we want to support it. We want to be basically an enabler for the ecosystem. And in the end, after a couple of discussions, I think independent venture capital fund was the outcome, and not like any corporate strategic investments. And yeah, that became Heal Capital. And so on that level, I'd say stayed the same, but happy to dive deeper into what we've learned so far and all the evolving topics, because I mean, every day there's new insights.
Are you early, or are you Series A, or where do you sit in the hole?
Yeah, and maybe also, and that I guess has changed a little bit. So we started out and felt like we probably enter around Series A stage. So just maybe quick numbers there: 100 million euro fund, 2 to 3 million initial ticket size as our entry ticket, and we felt that could be probably be Series A. And I guess we've all seen how the market has been developing the last couple of years. The round sizes get bigger, the valuations get higher. Everybody's moving.
Eckhardt, that's like pre-seed now. That's pre-seed now.
That's like if you have if you have a thought, if you come out of the bathroom and you have like a notion or a thought, that's like a 2 or 3 million.
I'm noticing I'm talking to two entrepreneurs here. Of course, I wouldn't call it pre-seed, but I think you're totally right. It's more like it's now a seed round, right? So I guess, and so I would say probably our portfolio is now around 70% seed and then 30% Series A, whatever initial ticket sizes. But yeah, that on our stage, and so early stage, I guess we love to also start to talk to people and teams very early, just understand like what they're trying to build, and then enter whenever we feel comfortable. And I usually would say product market fit, but we also know that often comes far later in healthcare than we want it to come. And then I guess like we just look for other good data points that show us it's just more than a team and a slide deck.
Yep. Right. And geography wise, because I remember before it got officially started, there was all these discussions around, well, it is in Germany, it's for the German market, but to your point, some of your LPs are pretty global players. So curious where you guys landed with that.
Yeah, also I think important.
So we can fill your pipeline of all the startups that are watching the show. I'm sure you're struggling with that. Yeah.
Well, I think the pipeline can always be bigger, right? Top of funnel, always as large as possible. And so Europe is our key market. In that sense, we actually have done 2 North American investments, which I think had special angles to it, why we did them, but core market is Europe. And I think the one objective we always look for, giving also, it makes sense that what we can bring to the table is at some point, I think the solution should also benefit the German patient at some point in time, but it doesn't have to be right now. It doesn't have to be a German team, not at all. And therefore, I guess Europe is a good geography.
And building off of that, like, just because we have a lot of people coming in, and we talk a lot about launching health technology companies in Europe, and what market do you start with? When do you go to the US? Do you go to other European markets? So we always ask people like their view on that. But the question I really want to ask you is like, if you're a German health tech company, when do you go to the US? Like how deep do you go? Because Germany is such a big market.
I think let's look at maybe examples there, right? Kaia Health, I think one of the most well-known digital health company from Germany, I think has core focus US, right? And so I think there are some companies who actually intentionally leave out the German market to a certain degree at least, and immediately focus on the US market. I think if you have the ability to do that, I think the US market is just so large. Yes, support that as well. But overall, I think the German market or the European markets in general, especially of course England, France, Nordics, Spain, Italy, maybe, I think are in itself also attractive markets. And what we have to achieve also as an ecosystem of entrepreneurs and investors to enable companies to then maybe hop from one market to the others. Because I think, yes, Kaia is a great example for a positive US expansion. I think there are a lot of companies who try and fail, who burn a lot of money, and they might have had a better shot in the European markets. I mean, a lot of VCs, also non-European VCs, look at European companies because they see so much value there. But yeah, maybe also love to get your opinion. Like, how do you look at that? I really believe in the European markets, but we have to facilitate it more to jump from, let's say, Germany to England, to Sweden, to wherever.
I think it's fascinating. Like I'm because I start my companies in Ireland, I have to build them for export. You know, I don't have a big domestic market. I just have kind of a market for kind of early scale experimentation, you know, maybe some access to some big international pharmaceutical clients. And then I got to get out right away. You know, I have to move really quickly. So in some ways it's almost like that's and they, for the most part, the Irish speak English. So the fact that I don't have to translate anything, you know, to get into the, into the markets. But if I was in Germany, I could imagine just getting like swamped in a really exciting market and then putting off the push to the US, right? Like, you know, because it is an exciting market.
But I think in health tech, I think it depends where you're falling in with your innovation in the value chain, right? Because there's certain things. I mean, I would love to actually dive and get your thoughts on DiGA, right? So there's many German companies on that list with their products. Great, it's been approved. Great, there's pricing set, right? Great, it's 90 million, end customers potentially, right? For it. Where's the traction versus? And again, I'm not saying versus in one way or the other, but let's take Big Health, started in UK, hopped over to US, doing pretty well in the employer market. Forget about FDA, forget about DiGA, forget about any of that, right? That doesn't mean they won't maybe come back. So I just think scaling, it depends on the problem you're trying to solve within that value chain of a particular country and a particular vertical.
No, I would fully agree to that. I think it really depends on that. And in terms of DiGA, I believe we are establishing an environment in Germany that actually can make it very attractive to basically earn your, let's say, first couple of, hundreds of thousands customers in Germany, and then take that as a base to jump off to larger markets or other markets. And so I think it's, again, I guess building out this ecosystem. But I guess DiGA, there are so many other things we can discuss about that, right? So happy to do that. But maybe last question there to you. Do you go left or right? So do you go to the US or to the UK actually as expansion plan?
Question to Jim, because
for me, it's a good question. I feel more comfortable. I think the translation into the UK market really depends on the product, but I like to take these kind of, considered bounces to the new, to these new markets. So like I'm probably exploring them simultaneously as I have traction in the market and seeing where the openings are. I think that if I can get the openings, then I'm pretty agnostic. I'm running towards the UK or the US. That's how I look at it. So not fixed, I guess, would be my short answer.
I mean, obviously your coach is a US-based, US-focused company. Actually, we had some pull from the UK because the whole health coaching piece is probably right. I don't want to say behind completely, but there's certainly some establishment. But as a young company, we're just saying no, right? Because we just need to focus. The US market is large enough. Now, if I put my sort of, if I switch back and if I had an entrepreneur hat on in Europe with a European business, this is where it shocks me a little bit. It's like you may get through that seed stage and however you define it these days, but an early market fit, and then some entrepreneurs want to just jump to the next country. And I'm like, why not be the bigger fish in a small pond, right? and really prove that scale, the scalability, and only then approach it. I think a lot of the European entrepreneurs jump too early. And I don't know if it's the pressures, if it's something's that not working, and it's a bit of like, well, we tried it here, but let's try it here, right? So I just feel like this.
Isn't it VC driven though? It's like where the capital is. Like I've raised, like my current company, we did continental Europe on the back of pharmaceutical companies. So we did Ireland, Netherlands, Belgium, Portugal, where else, a few other kind of smaller markets. And that was on the back of following pharma. But then the capital, that was in those markets were more interested in us than say the US capital, because the US capital needs a US centricity to it, or else they're likely not to invest. They're likely not to invest. So in order to get the US capital, you got to be in the US. In order to get the German capital, you have to kind of be in Germany for the most part.
But I also think, VC often is a game of extremes, right? So either you have the extreme strong traction with US funds who then actually pull you to the US, or you have the extreme of, and I think that's what you described, Eugene, is the founder who unfortunately tries too much because nothing has really stuck yet, right? So I guess that's what we at least often see. And I think that's one of I loved also that quote that I recently read. It's like, once you found product market fit, you feel that the rocket is taking off and the bolts are getting loose on the side, right? And if you don't have that feeling, you don't have product market fit yet. And I think a lot of people then believe, well, maybe I find product market fit with another product or with another go-to-market strategy or with another market. And I think then, you defocus, and that's often,
honestly,
unfortunately,
to me, it's such an exhilarating feeling when the bolts are just shaking off. This is when you grab that bubble gum and tape and stick it in.
Yes.
And you keep going.
Run at it.
So exactly.
So let's talk DiGA. Let's go DiGA for a sec. So what's happening with DiGA?
Yeah, so I think also for me a little bit of a roller coaster, in the sense of like, amazing that we have that in Germany. Great push by the Ministry of Healthcare towards how is that really working out? They won't build big companies, and I'd say now I'm somewhere in the middle, unfortunately. So not a clear-cut position yet, but maybe just to give it some color. So I think great that we have it, right? I think it's a leap of faith, like by the healthcare system, and I know there's a lot of pushback by the existing system still on some of the topics there. We have, I think just yesterday or 2 days ago, 2 new ones. So I think we had the 13, 14, 15 number of DiGAs that are approved now. And I know that some of the DiGAs make 6-figure revenues per month now, which I think is an early nice kind of traction. I think there's no 7-figure per month DiGA yet, at least to my knowledge. So overall, I think it's growing. And as we know, like sometimes markets, Jay, go this, and then suddenly it goes almost vertical. That is all very positive in my view. Then what got me a little bit more on the downright in the roller coaster was, I guess, there are 2 main aspects that I think are unproven for me. And those are the topic of distribution at scale, right? Like in the end, there is the usual and rightfully so gatekeeper of a doctor deciding what is being prescribed and not. So you have to achieve a distribution through that channel. And there, I think that's like harder and easier depending on the DiGA that you have.
I think so. At the most interesting point of the distribution.
I assume it's always me frozen.
So do I. There you go. Now you're back.
Yes.
You froze right at the most important, at the distribution part. So you kind of started talking about distribution.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Then, of course, going back to distribution. So in the end, we have rightfully so the doctor being the gatekeeper of what gets prescribed. In the end, you have to achieve a distribution through that channel. And if it's a GP-focused product, we have 27,000 GPs in Germany and 27,000, I think single of 2-person GPs. So I think that's quite a sales effort, and probably in terms of customer acquisition costs, it's hard to achieve. So anyway, distribution channel I think is a major concern, at least for us as investors, that is unsolved yet, from various perspectives, right? Just getting it into their hand, getting the understanding, getting them to prescribe it, some operational processes. Anyway, so that's distribution. And the other topic is price negotiation, because after 12 months, just to recap a little bit there, the first 12 months, you can set the price yourself, and then there will be a negotiation with the authorities in terms of what is the right price. And I think the business cases I've seen probably look at 10 to 20% drop of prices. I think there are voices in the market who rather see 50 to 80% drop in the prices. I'm not sure if we meet in the middle or not, but I guess that has, of course, clear impact on the business case that we figure out in the next 2-3 months when the first DiGAs will have the 12 months actually done already.
Right.
So first of all, I just checked because I love exits and outcomes, and Brian also tracks them, Brian Dolan. So it's 17 now, Eckhardt.
Oh,
yeah, but you're right. A few just were added, but we're up to 17. It's an interesting, your comment around price drop and renegotiate. I mean, at the end of the day, in theory, this is replacing, right? So this is much more self-care. And so this money is coming from somewhere, right? And I think, to your point, if it's making 6 figures, well, maybe, yes, some people are paying attention, but if it's now making 7 or even larger at some point, that money has to come from somewhere, right? And most likely from human beings that, I guess my question to you, and interestingly, I mean, your LPs are insurers, right? As long as it's approved, clinically validated, and insurers, I mean, they do see the clinical data. Do you ever see that insurers can do this, again, self-help kind of, I don't want to call them prescription, like your coach would call them health prescriptions, right? So maybe
I think
not.
there is a route actually that payers in Germany can also basically give it to you as a customer, so then you don't have to go through the doctor's route. But my feeling in that regard is that unfortunately there is no established communication really between us as customers and the insurance landscape or payer landscape. Yeah, I think DiGA, let's see how it turns out. So my, let's say, long-term view on it is, I think that's all attractive in terms of general businesses that the people are building. The question is, will it flip at some point? And I always called it that the patients actually say, I don't care if you switch out my GP or if you switch out my cardiologist, but leave me my DiGA, right? If there's a point in time where the patient actually says, the management of my disease is taken care of primarily by that DiGA, and everything else comes afterwards. The pills I take, the doctors I use, it's all, and I think that would be a switch of also strategic power in the market, right? So then it's not maybe the doctor as the primary decision maker in the process, in the patient journey, but maybe a DiGA. I don't even know if it's achievable, but if it's achieved, I think, yeah, kudos. I think then you build really large companies because then you decide about the patient pathway.
But it's set up to leave the doctors with that kind of recommendation power at the moment, right? Like, so the doctor is I determine as the clinician whether you get the service and thereby determine whether it will be funded or not. So the dependency feels like it's being, versus say I choose it myself and then I'm able to get it. I have an insurance entitlement that's independent of the doctor. So it seems like it's do you think that as a venture capitalist, right, and I don't know the answer to this question, we're looking at, applying and getting our DiGA for our product within a narrow definition version. So we're thinking about building something specifically, but in the back of my head, will the investment community, it's a long-term play, so will they value that? Just like if I get a medical device, if I was at a biotech company, they might value myself moving through clinical trials or, getting some kind of FDA clearance. Do you think the VCs value it?
I think I can only really speak for us here. So don't want to generalize too much, but I believe that we would not value it too much at this point in time. And why so? Because I think these question marks about go-to-market distribution risks and also price point. And we've seen too many pitch decks where the word DiGA is thrown around, that it has almost a bad connotation of people not really having an understanding on what that does it actually mean. But that's the general answer. I think with respect to your approach there, and I think giving also the stage and the strategy of your company, I think that could be completely different. And it could make total sense to say, well, we are a couple of, let's say, monetization playbooks, and one of them includes the DiGA solution. And that makes strategically sense for us, ABC. Then I think it can have a very positive effect. But generally, I'd say we've seen it thrown around a little bit too much without maybe thinking it through enough.
Right.
Maybe,
it feels like a nirvana. You're chasing it. You're chasing this kind of, hey, if I get this, then everything will be sorted. And it's just not that easy.
You're looking at Jim as an additional revenue stream in Germany, right? Not your necessarily core.
100%. Like I have to believe I'm not alone in this regard. You know, at first we were so excited. Remember being at Frontiers and it was announced, and we're like, oh, finally a pathway, you know, that has clarity and in German efficiency to it and all that stuff. And we're so excited about it. And then as you dig in and as it gets implemented, it has all the, the challenges that any new system would have. So I look, do I put resources into that? Do I put resources and go through that process, which is not an insignificant investment of time and resources and capital, and then what do I get at the end of that product? So do I get a shot at distribution is really, but if the investment community said, hey, this is going to be huge someday, so if there was a view, this is going to be huge someday, and getting DiGA is like getting, a class 1 medical device or an FDA clearance or a, NHSX or whatever the equivalent is in another market. I just think the market's not that mature yet. Doesn't really look at it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, also maybe we just take the lazy position here, right? We currently say, let's give the market another maybe 6 months, right? 12 months and look at it a little bit longer. And then I guess the price topic will at least have more transparency to it. And then I guess the distribution topic, I also believe at some point it will solve itself, given that more and more doctors are aware of those solutions, more and more prescriptions have been done. And I think maybe it gets like a snowballing effect. But maybe just to pick up on it, one aspect how we look at it is if we look, the key bottleneck is distribution, right? I think we've seen a couple of business models in Europe that say, well, then we are ourselves the distribution channel. And I mean, we have telehealth, right? So, and that's why we find it attractive at the moment if you combine telehealth and DiGA, for example, and maybe even some other, let's say, therapeutic options you might have, but DiGA definitely can be one. Then you might actually can build them if it's regulatory allowed, an end-to-end, let's say, pathway for the patient, right? You can catch him somewhere online. You can get him into your telehealth funnel. You can then end with a prescription, which can be for a digital solution or even something that sends you to the pharmacy, right? We like to call those models vertically integrated micro providers, VIMPROs. We actually coined the term because we like, that's actually maybe really solving for telehealth, the unit economics topic, because telehealth usually is not too largely reimbursed. And on the DiGA or therapeutic side, you solve the distribution channel, right? And that in itself, we believe can also create some large scale companies. And in that sense, I guess it can be highly attractive to have a DiGA because then you have a way to monetize your, let's say, the own products you develop there. Anyway, that's a little bit how we think about it. So I think entrepreneurs will lead us the way. They will figure out what is the best route.
Oh, and it's also, I mean, if you think about it, entrepreneurs are always told focus on something very specific, start there, right? But now, and we've always said this in health tech, right? Point solutions were never enough. But in order to service that particular market, right, you need to focus. Well, now it's definitely not enough. And all of these technologies are coming in and everybody wants to be the front door to health, right? And all of a sudden, when the C19 hit, right, that became the only door to health. So I know, C19.
But say it again. So describe it again, because I saw it. So VIMPRO, just repeat that again.
Yeah. So basically, in the end, it's basically an end-to-end solution for the patient. And one of the easy examples, in my view, is a dermatology company that says, hey, people with acne, for example, they have a very like a challenging pathway usually to find the right treatment, right? They go maybe start with the GP, get sent to the dermatologist, get sent to the pharmacy, first product doesn't work, back to the dermatologist, back to the pharmacy. So it's sometimes, I don't know, 5 to 10 touch points before you find something that solves it for you. And in that sense, I think a solution is great if you can do it from your couch at home, right? You get an assessment, you fill out some questions, maybe take a picture, get a prescription, maybe even personalized, online pharmacy, get it sent home, take it for a week, take a couple of pictures, doesn't work, put it in there, get another solution sent home, right? So that's the, let's say, classical with a cream or whatever you get there. That's like a vertically integrated micro provider for us, because you have the provider part, you have also a monetizable, let's say, product in it. But I think
don't forget to add a health coach and lifestyle changes that can potentially help reduce that with nutritional products and da-da-da. I had to throw that in.
I think that's I think that's a great point you make, because in the end, I think a lot of diseases can be at least managed to a certain degree by lifestyle changes, right? So I think that can be integrated as well, right? Like just to, I don't know, have an app and integrate an additional coach, I think is very easy to do. But coming back also, when I started, of course, talking about it coming from the DiGAs, I guess we looked, I think that's from a patient perspective, amazing, right? Like really convenience we all look for. I think if I could manage anything else like that, great. And then we of course look, what are the other business models out there? There's telehealth, right? That at least in Germany does not provide interesting unit economics. You have high customer acquisition costs still, and the reimbursement codes for a phone call are not attractive enough, and it's very transactional. So you have to reacquire each customer, right? Mm-hmm. So telehealth not really solved yet. On the other hand, you have those DiGAs. I think sometimes 500 euros, so big basket size. But on the other hand, like you have a hard time getting it into the people's hands. So why not basically throw it maybe together and you build your online telehealth solution? And then in the end, of course, like you have to see if it's the right prescription then, right? But prescribe maybe DiGAs, maybe that you even develop in your own, let's say, company. And then I guess you have this also, again, vertically integrated solution that can also have a health coach or a monitoring. And I mean, in the end, it's all about patient outcomes, right? So I think those solutions, and we've seen it in the US. So one example we always like to make there is, and if I may quickly share that here, is called CereGate. So CereGate is in our view, a VIMPRO who does that for mental health. Right, and they get you into the funnel if you have.
They just raised like 120 million, right, or something, or
yeah,
125.
Fastest unicorn to our knowledge in digital health, and they basically get into the funnel. There's first an assessment, and there's a psychologist, there's or a mental health coach, but if necessary, there's also a psychiatrist, and then basically they funnel you into the right pathway that helps you fast and convenient. And the beauty now is, as far as I've heard, is that they have data that they show they have better outcomes with data that the healthcare systems now want to work with them. And I think that's also what we believe can be possible, right? Because all those online solutions, if you combine the right elements, you hopefully gather the data to show that your outcomes are better. And it's not just only convenience. And if you achieve that, I think also the payers are very open to pay the bills.
So I'm actually curious, right, because, and this is kind of a little bit of the chicken and the egg. So I agree with you. I'm very much focused on mental health, and there's a number of players. But guess what, right? The person that might be, early onset of anxiety in that focus, well, the anxiety might be because they were just also diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, right? And I'm making this up, right? And of course, we have that vertical provider, AKA at the time was Livongo, Verda, keep going, right? And so to me, the VIMPRO concept, it's like, is there a super VIMPRO that did you see? And then how good are they? Because then to me, that's an Optum that has 500 chips moving, right? And then
but I have a counter question to that, right? Sure. And I think that's clear. Comorbidities, let's call it like this. So I think it's obvious issue there. How would you say? I think at the moment I look at digital health more in the sense of like, it has great applications to a broad set of people of the population. It's not solving edge cases. It's not improving the best care with the best doctors, with the best set of doctors. I think we are not there yet. But if we, let's say on a population level, increase, let's say the delivery of healthcare, we really achieve a lot on the population level. But I think on an individual level, that sometimes I fully agree might not solve the perfect case. That actually is, I don't know, a completely different reason for depression that is breaking out. But in the end, I think as always in entrepreneurship, you can't solve all right at the beginning. But I think we'll get there. But how do you look at that? Is digital health maybe more of a like population, let's say, incremental increases, but that have a big impact on a population level, but on an individual level, I mean, it's not biotech, right? It's not the next big innovation of a drug that cures a disease.
It feels like digital health, like, you hear all these tripes about, the word digital health, but it's this idea that we have a calcified health delivery system perspective, how we do things that's based on a rigidity that just existed for a long time before we had software and we all had phones in our pockets and we all had these systems. So there's just so many ways to tackle this challenge of introducing, software, algorithms, new ways of thinking, like your VIMPRO model, that, my perspective on it is the system doesn't want the innovation in some ways. The system's calcified, it's stuck in its ways, it's trying to do that. And our job is to kind of find those pinpoints and kind of grow, land and expand inside of it,
I'll be frank with you, I don't even know what digital health is anymore, right? Because what was it, Bright Health, the largest digital health IPO, and kudos to the early investors and the team. I mean, really amazing. Is it really digital health? It's another insurance player, right? Granted, a more modern one, right? Like, et cetera. And of course, digital is everywhere now. So I don't even know how to answer that question. I think at the end of the day,
movement. It's a movement, man. It's a movement.
It was a movement until it became, I think, when one of the shots we were joking around. Once the suits are in, it's no longer digital or not. It's just health and health services and modern health services that are using technology, right?
Yeah,
I hope I'm not that suit you talk about, right?
Not at all.
Hey, listen, all power. I have a few of those hanging somewhere, so all good.
Okay.
But anyway, so I'd love to just before we go to Jim's famous question at the end, I actually I want to maybe sample, like, I don't even know, to be honest, your portfolio, Eckhardt, like maybe just kind of blur it out and for the entrepreneurs, some of the reasons why you guys invest and how it fits in. Just a minute or two. Sure. I think it would be helpful for the other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I try to do it quick and fast, and of course, I really do love our portfolio. Right, I think it's really cool companies and entrepreneurs. So I would say two main areas. I think more like technical innovation and more business model innovation. And I think on the tech innovation side, two crazy things people try. One is brain writing technology. So it's called CereGate, and they have an understanding on how to develop software that uses, I don't know, brain implants or other, let's say, neuro implants to write code into your brain and then basically help you live with symptoms of severe diseases. And the other one is called Moray Medical. They developed like a small Moray device that can basically repair, for example, heart valves. And they do that with augmented reality solutions. So I don't want to call it almost play doctor or surgeon on your phone, but that's a little bit what they at least target, right? So really cool tech innovation there. And then more on the business innovation model side, I guess one is Harvey Medical. It's a full stack GP platform, right? So they build practices, they build software, they really want to put it all together. I think that's what we often need in healthcare to drive innovation. We have Actio completely on the other side, which is similar also, I guess, to what you are doing in the US, like helping coaches in whatever way to reach their audience. I think also really cool developments there. We have a new one that I can't announce, but it might be closer to the VIMPRO developments we really like. What else do we have? We have LivNao in the USA, which is, it's actually Canada, which does a really cool mental health monitoring solution. It's a small widget that can integrate it in any, let's say, smartphone app, and with like high accuracy tell you your mental health scores. We have, our early ones, of course, Silo, which is a messaging tool for doctors. And I think really cool network effects there, of course. And we have Infermedica, a great symptom checking solution. Yeah. And we know, of course, a couple of those really like what they are building there. And now I actually have to think if I've forgotten one, and I feel I have.
They will forgive you because we put you on the spot, and you CYA'd yourself by saying I love all the portfolio companies. So
we can add it to comments. We can add it to comments if you want. All right. Cool.
So, Mr. Joyce, I'll hand the last one off to you.
So Eckhardt, you're a 27-year-old with a law degree living in Munich and thinking about moving to Berlin, and you're a son, or you're a son of a pharmacist and a doctor, and you're starting up a digital healthcare company. What advice would you give that person?
And first, when I heard you were a 27-year-old, I was like, great, like works well today, the hairstyle. No, but yes, if I were back the 27-year-old student, I think the advice I would give myself is do it, really do it. I think it's probably hasn't been a better time to be an entrepreneur, in technology and in healthcare. So I think like that is the first thing I would recommend. The other one is, and I briefly actually thought about again today, what would I actually maybe build as a company? And funny, recently I wear this continuous blood pressure monitor actually of a Swiss company, sorry, and just basically, so from my family side, I know that we have a little bit of high blood pressure in the family, so I wanted to look at that, right? So I guess I would say there are, I think, widespread like early signs that are leading people on a negative path towards, let's say, long-term healthcare or health, right? And I think for myself or for that person, I would recommend maybe look into that. Maybe do you really feel you can have a mission-driven approach to, and then just talk to as many people as possible in the early stages and understand what are the people's and involved stakeholders' pain points. Because often I feel that solutions could a little bit address that better, right? So when I basically try to look into that a little bit more, I don't actually know where to start. Like, so I started listening to podcasts about blood pressure. I, of course, looked at what solutions are out there. And I think it all comes, and that is also, I guess, where my heart lies, down to like user experience. And I think we have to bring the user experience we have in all other life areas, and especially now with those fast delivery companies that bring you all your food in 10 minutes, at least in Berlin. Like, I mean, I think should bring that to healthcare, and I think we have the tool set. And I think this 27-year-old person should, I think, try to put that all together. And then I think that can develop solutions that everybody wants, needs, and also payers will reimburse. And yeah, and I'll be the first one to invest.
Love it.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Good wise words. Last question, just to make sure, that was Aktiia, right? On your wrist.
Yes, that's an Aktiia one. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting solution.
Yeah, looking forward to getting back to Europe to get it just that. So thank you very much for joining. And
thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. And to all the listeners and viewers, subscribe, follow, and rewind all the way back to a sponsored message.
Yeah, and
phenomenal. Thanks. Dankeschön.
Danke euch. Have a great evening and enjoy.